Alright then guys, so let's take a look at a review real quick. We have our test tomorrow, so let's review. There's four sections. There's four sections and I included 6 questions on each. So for the first section, I think I mentioned we can do those. Let me do take a look at question number 4. Alright, rotation. I know I gave you guys the rules for 90 clockwise, 180, and 90 counterclockwise, but this one says 270 clockwise. Right? Well, 270 clockwise, wouldn't that be the same thing as 90 counterclockwise? Right? 270 clockwise or 90 counterclockwise. Like if I was to, let's say I had the clock starting at 12, if I went 270 clockwise, I will finish at 9. Right? If I look at the clock, I finish at 9. But now let me start at 12 again. Let me go 90 counterclockwise. I finish at 9 as well, right? So 270 clockwise or 90 counterclockwise, isn't that the same thing? Like if I have going clockwise 270 like this, right? Now let me start again. 270, 90 counter, it's the same thing. So 270 clockwise or 90 counterclockwise, I want to use the same rule. So it could be on the test like that. So I will go xy will become, according to a rule, becomes negative yx. I just wanted to come over and talk about this one, just in case you guys ever see 270 clockwise, you guys don't get confused. I couldn't even say 270 counter. Now that would be 90 clockwise. So even though we haven't seen that number, you guys have seen it in a different number. Alright, so the way we do this, let me get the coordinates. For D, the coordinates right now are 1, 4. For E, the coordinates are 3, 3. For F, coordinates are 2, negative 1. And for C, I get 1, 2. So according to the rule, xy becomes negative yx. I'm going to get, for D prime, I'm going to get negative 4, 1. For E prime, I'll get negative 3, 3. What do we get for F prime? 1, 2. 1, 2. What do we get for C prime? Negative 2. Negative 2, 1. All right, let's plug the points in. Give me 5, 1, 2, and negative 2, 1. And it does look like I rotated the picture 90 counterclockwise. Or 270 clockwise, however you guys want to call it. So for the first, which one?
Never mind.
Never mind. All right. For, if you notice, one thing that probably you guys have not noticed, my initial point, you see how I draw them a little like right under each other? I leave a space on each. For the primes, you notice I don't write it right below it. No, I write it at the side. So if that helps, because it's a little bit easier to read that way than if you just put them all straight down. So if that helps, yes. Because if we look at the clock, let's say I was going 270 clockwise, so I'm going with the clock, 270 I finish at number 9, right? But now let me start with the clock, let's say I go 90 counterclockwise. I finish at 9 as well, right? So 90 counterclockwise or 270 clockwise, it's the same thing. I changed it to 90 counterclockwise because that's how we have our rule. Alright, so for the first 6 questions, so for, I told you guys there's 4 sections. The first section, I give you guys a graph and I ask you guys to graph it according to the transformation. Any questions on the first 6?
Number 2.
Number 2. Alright, let's take a look at question number 2. reflection across y equals negative x. For reflection, we have two ways of how to do this. One way, graph the mirror line. The y equals negative x line looks like this. I know my lines tend to be crooked a little, just a tad. Or so you guys want it straight in your case, the edge of your ID works great. So you guys can use that. So I graph the mirror line, and I'm going to count the spaces from the picture to the mirror line, and it should be the same on the other side. So if I look at T, my distance is 1.5. So 1.5 on the other side gives me T prime. S is 1.5. So 1.5 on the other side gives me S prime. R, my spaces are 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me count 4 spaces on the other side, and I get R prime. Let's.
I got a question for number one too.
Number one. What's your question for number one?
When it's a fraction, how do we,
How do we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm hoping you guys have calculators.
Yeah.
So let me just do 1 point. All right, we have the coordinates of D. The coordinates of D are -3, -1. All right, we obviously get the coordinates of E, F, and C. I get each of your points. But now for you to find at least D prime, because I'm only going to do 1 point, what we're going to do, we're going to multiply by 1/4. Every number multiplied by 1/4. On your calculator, you're going to use decimals. 1/4 is the same thing as 0.25. If we don't know what 1/4 is as a decimal, before you get your numbers, on your calculator, go 1 divided by 4, and that gives you your decimal. So we know it's 0.25. So with the calculator, multiply everything by 0.25, and I'm going to get -0.75, -0.25. I multiply each of these by 0.25. And when I graph it, I know -0.75 is almost -1. Not quite, so I don't get all the way to -1. And -0.25, it's about there. So that gives me my D prime. Remember, get the coordinates of each. I only got the coordinates of T. But get the coordinates of each. Multiply every number by 0.25 to get the new coordinates, and then plug in the new points.
Okay.
Because my scale factor is less than 1, right? 1/4 is less than 1. I expect the picture to get smaller. Way smaller, actually, in this case. Any questions for the first 6? All right, let's take a look at number 7. Number 7, this section's a little visual. Like, hopefully you guys can see it. I know in my case it's blue and black, but in your case you have the coordinates, so you know which one came first. If you can see which one is happening, what's happening in this case, then just write the rule. Like rotation of this, dilation of that, translation, which rule is happening. If you can see it, you can just write the rule. If you cannot see it, follow a point. So to help you guys out, let me follow the point E. I notice my coordinates are 3, -1. I look at my coordinates of E prime, because once again I'm following a point. I get -1, -3. Right? I look at E and E prime. Right? So I'm following a point. I notice that XY becomes Y -X. Right? There was swapping Y into X, and the value that was X, I switched the sign. So XY became Y -X. Which rule is that?
Reflection across line equals X.
It's actually a rotation.
Oh.
Rotation of what? Of 90 degrees clockwise. Remember, clockwise abbreviated as CW. Rotation of 90 degrees clockwise about the Earth. If you notice that at the beginning, if you notice that it rotated 90 degrees clockwise, then you could have just written that. Again, 7 through 12, they're visual. But if you cannot see it, follow 8 points, and then you should be able to see it. Any questions from 7 through 12? I think there's one picture that in your case, it looks a little bit weird, number 11. It looks like it's missing some lines, but they're there. You see how for my blue case, it's actually the orange on the axis, and then my black case, SP, is actually there. But just because it's on the axis, it looks like it's not. So it's not that it's missing some sides, it's a little hard to read on your guys' screen. But number 11, it's a whole polygon. Alright, since there's no questions, let's take a look at number 13. Number 13 is like the first 6 questions. Because on the first 6 questions I gave you guys a picture, here I only gave you guys coordinates. Translation, 6 units right, 2 units up. So that means on the X, I'm going to add 6, and then the Y, I'm going to add 2. So for I prime, I'm going to get 2, negative 1. For J prime, I'm going to get 2, 2. I'm adding 6 to the X and adding 2 to the Y. What do you guys get for K prime? 5, 2. What do you guys get for L prime? 4, negative 1. Nice. So you have to know your rules. If you need the rules, I have them on the board, and they will be there on the board tomorrow. Any questions up until number 18? 15? Rotation 90 degrees clockwise. According to our rule, X, Y, 90 degrees counterclockwise, we get negative Y, positive X. So I'm going to say that B prime is going to become 5, 0. Because notice how X, Y, and YX, they got swapped. But also the value that was Y, I switched the sign. For C prime, I'm going to get 0, 1. Right? There's no such thing as negative 0. What do you guys get for D prime? 0, 2. What do you guys get for E prime? 2, 4. All right. Any other questions up until 18? No? All right, let's take a look at number 19. Write a rule to describe each transformation. So it was kind of like the section that I told you guys was visual, but that one had a picture, this one has numbers. One number that is not good to follow will be T, because I would not be able to tell if my values got swapped or not. Another number that is not good to follow is point B, because I cannot tell if my 0 changes sign or not. So let me follow my U. Let me see if X, Y becomes something. But before, let me remember my 4 rules. I have reflection and rotation to begin with. Then I have translation and dilation. Those are the 4 rules that we have. For reflection and rotation, I use the same numbers for the first number and the prime number. The only thing that I do, I swap them or change signs, but I use the same values. I notice for U and U prime, my numbers are different. Right? So it's not that I just change sign or swap them. It's totally different. So just by that, I already know that it's not reflection or rotation, because my numbers completely change. So I'm in between translation and dilation. If it's translation, I'm adding the same to every X, and then I'm adding the same to every Y. If it's dilation, I'm multiplying everything by the same. I heard translation, so let me just come in, let's try translation. What are we doing to the X? X minus 2, so that means 2 units left. We're subtracting 2 to the x's, so that means 2 units left. What are we doing to the y? Adding 1, so that means 1 unit up. And then we take a quick glance. Yeah, we're subtracting 2 from every x, and we're adding 1 to each y. So keep in mind, the first thing we do, look at the numbers and see they only got swapped or changed sign. I know it's either reflection or rotation. If my numbers completely change, I know it's translation or dilation. Translation, I'm adding. Dilation, I'm multiplying. Any questions? No? Alright guys, make sure you guys are ready for the test. Let me take roll really quick.